Hey, good afternoon. Thank you all so very much for tuning in to Career Conversations. I've got a very, very special guest today. We have Jen Jones. She is the early career SWE recruiter at Google and host of the lifestyle podcast, The Jennuine Life. So everybody give a warm welcome to Jennifer. Welcome, Jen. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you agreed. I was like, let me just shoot my shot on this LinkedIn post. And I was like, wait, she responded?
You
Yes.
did, yeah.
So like imagine my excitement and my just, joyful surprise. So thank you for being here. My style was to kind of just jump right into questions so we can have a fun conversation.
Love
So
it.
the first, I always like to ask people this: what does your family think you do when you tell them you're a recruiter at Google?
They think I sit on the phone all day, which is partially true. But I have to tell you, it actually took some trying to inject some excitement into my dad. All he cared about was, okay, but do they offer benefits? And I was like, yes, but I work at Google, Dad. Okay, congrats. It's like, okay, never mind.
He was like, "Where are the benefits? Show me the healthcare, the dental. Like, is it the good insurance or is it the one with the high deductible?" Like, he don't care about. He's like, "Look, they paying you, good job."
Yep.
Oh,
So they really I think if I were to ask them, they really just think I sit on the phone, like pushing calls all day, not knowing that it's a mixture of a ton of things.
Yeah. So what do you actually do? You mentioned there's a mixture of a ton of things.
Yeah. So I like to think of myself really as a coach for my candidates. And so I really see them from the time that they're ready for an on-site until the finish line. And so I'm managing that entire process for them. So it's prepping them for their interviews, it's getting the feedback back from their interviews, giving the news to them, also getting them to the finish line from there and trying to get them the best offers possible, and helping them make one of the biggest decisions of their lives. And one of the coolest things is that I'm on a really, really cool team with Google, and that is the early careers team. And so we're focused on software engineers that are very early in their careers and looking to really start off with a company like Google. And so many of them are 1 to 3 years outside of school. And so I think that that's really cool to be a part of that process with them.
Okay, so this is very early. So this sounds like the coaching part is super important part of your job. What kind of advice are you generally giving these young people when they're prepping for the interviews?
You know, for me, I always try to remind people that if you make it to an on-site interview, and not even just at Google, but anywhere, you know what you're doing, right? You've already demonstrated at some point during the first interview. Most times you have to do a phone screen, that you've demonstrated the skill set that the company is looking for. So if you made it to the on-site, now it's time to show off, right?
Yeah.
So what I try to tell my candidates is don't get so caught up in your head that you start to mess up during the on-site. Have fun and use that time to let your personality seep through. And I know that that's difficult to say, especially when you're probably in one of the biggest interviews of your life, but it's really good to start to practice. And that's why I always tell them, get in the mirror for at least an hour a day, Google interview questions, and practice. It feels weird, but once you start doing it live, it'll become like second nature. And then at that point, you're starting to weave your own personality into your interviews. And now you're becoming charming and not so robotic, and you don't forget things on interviews. So that's what I try to tell them.
Oh, that's a good tip to spend some time in the mirror so that you can embrace the charm and be charismatic when you show up rather than going, well, wait, what did they say? And then you kind of get lost in your head.
Yep.
And
you
then
overthink things. You already know what you're doing. And I think a lot of times people, start to question their ability to do jobs. Imposter syndrome is real. So.
Oh, so real. So real. So you're now so let's talk about the other part of what you do as well. You're a podcast host.
I am.
How did you get into that?
Boredom,
It's dangerous, right?
Good old quarantine. So I was living in Seattle at the start, February 2020 is when I launched my podcast, the Jennuine Life podcast. And I was living in Seattle. I did not have family out there, and I was just starting to make friends. And for anybody that's over 35, it is very difficult to make new friends in a new city. And I was like, I wonder how I can keep in touch with, my friends and my family back home. but I didn't want the restriction of like a YouTube vlog. Like I didn't want to have to edit videos, and I wanted it to be very natural. And I think in a world where we live in, you know, with social media kind of ruling and people only showing the good and not necessarily the bad, or you can flick on the news and see something negative, I wanted to try to impart just my piece into the world. And so the Jennuine Life podcast was born, and it is just a positive podcast. We talk about living life genuinely, unapologetically, and authentically. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I've gotten a chance to check out a couple episodes. Like I have laughed, I have smiled, I've been like, girl, that is so right. Like those are so many like reactions, but it's always been, like you said, a very positive, good sort of space. So thank you for creating that as well. I think it's so important to be able to have those spaces and have those options in a world where we're watching so many negative things play out on the news, and kind of, you know, finding a healthy form of escapism, frankly.
All of us do.
Yes. So we talked a little bit about what you actually do as far as coaching all these early year software engineers. We've got one LinkedIn user we mentioned. She said, "Hey, we'll have to check it out." I bet you it's Linda. Unfortunately, I can't see all of her details, but she said, "I'll have to check it out." So you guys, it's on Spotify. I know for sure. Where else can they find your podcast?
Oh, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music now, and then I'm also on Anchor too.
Oh, nice. Okay, so we've got plenty of options. Whatever you would like to grab, you know, to listen. I'm a Spotify girl personally, but yeah, I've checked it out. I've enjoyed it. I hope other people get to enjoy it as well. What did you want to be when you were growing up?
So initially, I wanted to be an anesthesiologist, and my mom is a nurse, so
okay,
I just thought it was the coolest thing that they like put people to sleep and woke them back up, and then the day was over.
It's just like,
all day. Yeah, shout out to all the anesthesiologists because they do way more than that, obviously. But and then eventually, I come from a family of educators, and so I thought I was supposed to be a teacher because that's what everyone told me. I had a great personality. I was bubbly, so everyone thought I should be a really good kindergarten teacher. But I love kids, but not enough where I could do like a full season of them. This is not for me. And so I actually came out of school. I went to Temple, received several scholarships. It was my top school. Went there for about a year and a half and just couldn't do college. And came home and I just could not focus. And at first I thought it was the school. So I ended up going back to New Jersey. I'm originally from New Jersey. And started going to community college because I thought maybe the size of the school was keeping me from concentrating and going to class, but that wasn't it. So, then I decided to go to William Patterson. So I went there for a little while, and it just was this repeated pattern of I'm super smart, but I just wasn't focused in school. And so of course my parents were like, okay, we're not paying anymore. So you need to figure out what you want to do. And that's when I started working retail, and I was excellent at it. I mean, I got to have fun. And I was selling things. I loved fashion. And so I was able to dress my clients that walked in the door. And eventually I was getting promoted. And so I became an assistant manager at several stores, at several malls in New Jersey. And eventually fell in love and got married and needed more balance. You know, if you work in retail, it's the holidays, the weekends. And
it's nonstop. Yeah, I worked retail for like 8-9 years.
Big time. And started to transition into account management, where I worked in customer service / the call center. And, you know, as fate would have it, I was laid off from that job and began to just pass my resume out to anyone who would take it. And it landed on the desk of a recruiter at a staffing agency. And she put me on a project for a little under a year. And when it ended, someone at that staffing agency quit. And they asked me to come in and answer phones. And so I came in to answer phones. And then the receptionist quit, and officially. And so I'm sorry, the recruiter quit. And that's when they asked me to start recruiting. And that's when I started learning how to recruit. So literally at the right time.
Yeah, look, you got reactions. People said this is an awesome story. It takes time to find our way, our passion, and what we want to do in life. So like when you lost that previous job, like how did you manage that? Like you said, you sent out your resumes, but like what was like your initial reaction?
So I think I've always had an entrepreneurial like spirit. So I'm just going to hustle. I'm going to hustle and do what I need to do. For a while, I was like making bracelets and selling them on Etsy and kind of like doing things, Uber Eats and things like that. But it was hard. You know, I was also proctoring exams on the weekends too. So I ended up landing a gig. So I was doing 3 jobs at one point and
hustling.
Yep. And yeah, and then you know what it was? I just knew things weren't. I knew it was temporary. I knew it wasn't permanent, and I knew that wasn't the end of my story. But I had to get through it. But it wasn't easy for sure.
That part, getting through it. I think that's probably maybe part of your superpower with helping these other career professionals. Like, you know what it's like to be on the hunt, like unexpectedly, even
and
like
that is my selling point. Every time I've interviewed anywhere, you know, I've always told people I know exactly what it's like to be on the other end. I know what it's like to have to choose between gas and food, or, you know, an interview being literally my last hope. So I know about all of that. And I think that that's what I love the most about my job, is that I get to just inject hope, positivity, and just remind people how valuable they are, you know, and that all is temporary.
Remind people how valuable they are. I love that. That I think is so important, because even if you aren't ushering people into the next job at Google, you're saying, look, you're important still. Keep looking.
Yep.
Is that what gets you out of bed in the morning? What makes recruiting your thing?
You know, it's two parts, honestly.
Okay.
The first is the magic, right? When you do get to match someone to the position that they've been working so hard to get, or like the dream job, and not even just at Google, really anywhere that I've worked, that moment where I get to call someone and say, okay, like, you did this. But then there's that other side where I get to your point, you know, even if they don't get what they were hoping for, I think sometimes we can be so hard on ourselves and we don't always have someone immediately to pick us up, you know?
Yeah.
And on the other end, like, I really try to remind my candidates, like, it's okay. And if you want to talk Google, I interviewed 3 times over the course of 6 years before I got in there. So
3 times?
Yeah. 3. The second time I got in as a contractor. The first time I completely blew my interview. I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but I know it, obviously knew it now.
Yeah.
And then the third time was the charm for me.
Okay, so this has been like a long haul sort of approach for you.
It has, but you know, that's what I try to remind people as well, is that it's all about timing, you know, because as I think about my entire story, I wasn't prepared for Google 6 years ago. I would not have been the same recruiter as I am today. And I think I'm just so much better for them and to myself and my candidates now than I would have been 6 years ago. And so I think that's another thing I try to remind people too. You know, rejection is a redirection into something else that is set up for you that could literally land you where you're supposed to be. And sometimes it doesn't look like what we want it to be, but it always works out in the end. And you just have to remember that.
Yes, it always does. I think for me, I'm starting to notice on my journey all the little breadcrumbs of like, oh, that's how you ended up here, and this is why this skill matters, even though it has nothing to do with your job. Exactly. But when you're in the pinch trying to figure out what documents or where to sort them, remember that day you spent, you know, 100 pages of documents. Yeah, like now it makes sense. Like, but it's crazy. Yeah, someone said, "Wow, persistence." Another comment, you know. Rejection is a redirection. Love that. Yes, it certainly is. When someone says namaste, all from India. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'm like loving this. Thank you for the engagement today, guys. I appreciate it. We had one person, she asked the question, she said, are you recruiting data scientists? I think we talked a little bit about this, but I want to make sure that we're engaging people here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not. So and one thing, I actually did a podcast episode on this, and this actually is a really good question because a lot of times what people should know is that, especially with larger companies, many recruiters are strictly dedicated to one particular profile. And so usually if someone tells you no, it's not that they're being mean. I literally wouldn't even know who to talk to about data scientists.
And that's something I learned listening to your podcast. When you were talking about what it's like to be a recruiter at Google, you were like, okay, look, I have a very specific niche of who I recruit here. And the company's so large, there's no way for you to know the whole bank of who's recruiting where, or even as far as updates are concerned. When things get updated, like it might get reposted, but that doesn't mean the position is filled. It's just there's kind of this one person that's kind of pushing the button and going, requisition's not filled yet. Keep posting until we can close it.
It's true. And the cool thing is, the good thing about larger companies is that they do have the people in place. So, we have screeners that literally go through every application. That's why when a recruiter does tell you to apply, it's not that they're trying to push you off, but there is a process in place that is set up for it to be fair for everybody that goes through the process, but two, so that it's streamlined, not only for you, but for the recruiter that'll eventually get your application. And so it is best to apply to the role because someone is reviewing your application. But that's why it's also super, super important to apply to the roles that you are fit for. Because you don't want to go, I know a lot of candidates take the strategy of applying to 50 different roles and just hoping someone would call them. You don't want to go that route because some companies will block you from applying. And so you want to be very strategic about where you're applying to and the roles, because you want to make sure you're being reached out to by the right person. And that recruiter would be assigned to your application if you are a fit.
Got you. So thank you for clearing that up and helping us understand how Google has very, very specialized recruiting processes where people are assigned to specific niches. So you are dealing with early career software engineers who are 1 to 3 years out of school. Anything else, they'd have to find the right sort of recruiter and the right niche to get into that role. Thank you for clearing that up, because I've gotten quite a few questions and people were asking, hey, can you look at my profile? Can you get me a job as a janitor? I'm just like, well, that's not our area.
No, it's not. But yeah, no, and it's super helpful. That's one thing I love about recruiting, specifically at Google. I mean, I love recruiting at all, but what I love about this method is the recruiter that you're working with really understands the division that they're working for. They know those hiring managers, they know that business. And so when they're talking to you, they can really help you make a decision based off all of this information that they're so well knowledged on. And so it's just helpful versus having someone who's a master at everything. Or what's the thing? It's like a master of none or some. I'm messing this up.
Bree, that's cool.
We're reversed. But our recruiters are just, they really create a very niche and tailored experience for our candidates. And that's just to help them get through the process without, any confusion.
That makes sense. So you have a very, very close insight, kind of like how I work closely with subject matter experts, and I know what they're looking for in particular things when we're putting together documents. You know these people's pain points and what they're looking for in employees. That's pretty awesome.
Yep.
So we've talked a little bit about who you recruit, how that works at Google. You said you wanted to be an anesthesiologist when you grew up, which I thought was pretty cool. So you've become a recruiter. We've talked about your journey through college, and college is really not a thing for you, to move it into retail and eventually becoming a recruiter. What is the best part about this leg of your career journey so far?
Ooh, well, one, I'm not a boastful person, so I hope that has come across during the time that I've been chatting, but I'm excited to be at Google, to be honest with you. It's been something, when I contracted there back in 2017, it was just a place that I never forgot. And I loved it there. And it just felt like home for me. And it just meant so much to get back there again, but now as a full-time employee. And I think I had put so much pressure on myself, not having a degree. I contemplated going back to school so many times and, thinking I could never get in there because, I don't have a degree. I don't have this extensive background. I have no certifications. I literally just have my personality and previous experience. And
those relationships, I imagine that was a factor. Were you able to get like a referral based on your experience as a contractor?
Yeah, it was huge. And that's why I tell people all the time, and mention that in that latest podcast episode too, is networking on LinkedIn is vital. And I'm not just talking about, sending a DM to someone and saying, here's my resume and my credentials. I mean, really bringing value, building valuable relationships. It takes time. And I think we just live in such a rushy kind of world where we want it now. But I also, I don't want to water down what we're going through. I know that this is a really crazy time too.
Yes.
But sometimes you have to be patient for things that you want because you want it the right way. You don't want to rush through it. And I just appreciate this part of my career so much more because of the work that I had to put in to get here.
This is 6 years in the making and several applications.
They're gonna have to lock those doors. I'm not moving. So
yeah, but you said that Google feels like home for you. Can you talk to me a little bit more about what home is like?
When I can be myself, when you go home and, I have, like, at one point I hadn't been home in 5 years, but the minute I walk through the doors, it's just this relief that you feel. And I had worked at previous companies where I didn't have that feeling, where I was just constantly code switching or feeling like I couldn't have a voice, or that I was just talking too much or questioning things too much. I question everything. And, Google embraces that. They, I can wear a 28-inch weave because, I know hair is...
It is a thing. Yeah, I cracked up. Those were the things you talked about in your podcast that kind of had me snickering. But for people who are not familiar with the term code switching, I wanted to kind of just say, like, code switching is the idea of showing up someplace and using extremely, watered down African American vernacular, I guess is the best way to put it. So instead of saying, hey, y'all, like I say to y'all, sometimes I might say, hello, how are you? Like, just so that people understand the difference in how people might show up to work. And she's saying she feels so at home at Google, she doesn't feel like she has to do that.
I don't. I really don't. And I also feel very comfortable owning my career here. And that's super important to me too. And it's just, you feel valued there, and knowing that I'm also trusted to do my job. I don't have
that part
sitting over me all day. It's literally, do you need me? Do you have any questions? What do you need from me? Those kinds of questions, but never this hounding. I've never had that experience here. And so it's just been really good for me. And that's why I feel at home. And
that's so good. Like, so that people are like trusting you to do your job. You said you have the power to kind of guide your career here. What does it look like to be in control of your career? Can you talk a little more?
Yeah. So what's really cool is that there's especially as a recruiter, and this is not only at Google, really, this is at any company, you have so many different avenues that you can go in. There's several levels of that you can go as a recruiter. So you can, go from a 3 all the way up to, I think, like 7 senior recruiters. You have executive recruiters. You have leadership recruiters who focus like on your executive leadership type of recruiting. So this all different kinds of recruiting, but then you can branch off and do like university recruiting or healthcare recruiting. So there's just like all these different things that you can do just from being an individual contributor. But then if leadership is in your heart too, then you can lead recruiters or lead the way recruiting goes. If you want to go into program management, then you can talk about how recruiters recruit and what kind of programs you can roll out from there. So it's just like so many different things that you can do from recruiting. But when you're at a company like a Google or even like a small company where you can make a really big impact because you're like sitting next to the CEO.
People don't understand sometimes the value in that as well, and things that you'll learn and pick on your way up. It makes a difference. I think one of the best things that happened to me in the industry I'm in was starting at a small company where I sat down the road from the VP of business development's office, and I was always in his office asking a million questions. Flash forward 7 or 8 years, and now they're like, well, how does she know that? Or to ask that even. And it is because of that small business experience that has been so pivotal. So people do not despise humble beginnings. They have a purpose.
And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like all of these things line up to help you for whatever has your name on it, you know? And so all of these things lead up to where you're supposed to be. And I think that that's what makes this leg of my career so beautiful now. It's just, I feel so equipped to be here now.
That is powerful when you talk about feeling equipped.
Yes.
So what advice would you give to somebody preparing to become a recruiter?
People may not like my response to this, but that's okay.
This is about your story.
Yeah, and it's real. No one, very rare. I think now you're starting to see people kind of have this goal of becoming a recruiter. But if you ask any recruiter, 98% of them never had a goal of becoming one. They usually have stumbled into it somehow, and then fell in love with it. And so I have always told people, if you're interested, you need to start getting into customer service. Is a very good transferable skill for recruiting, anything hospitality. So if you have that foundational background, you're already doing great. But you want to start taking on responsibilities that incorporate culture, that obviously resume reviews, interview planning, interviewing, and hiring candidates. So if you're not doing those, you want to start working on that now, because those are the kinds of keywords you want to start getting on your resume that will help you get noticed by recruiters. And sometimes you may not start in the role as a recruiter. And I think I have to put that out there too. A lot of times we want to start here, but we might have to start here in the beginning and gain some skills. And again, it's all about timing and opportunity. Had I not agreed to go answer phones, which was a very humbling experience for me, and I'm not trying to be funny. I mean, at the time I was working full time. I had all the things, and I was laid off and had nothing. So whatever job they were going to give me, I was taking it, And so, but had I not humbled myself enough to take that, I would have never had the opportunity to work with Cirque du Soleil. I've worked with Uber. I've gotten a chance now to work with Amazon, Instacart, and now Google twice. And that is huge for somebody who literally was just at the right place at the right time, And so that's why I tell people all the time on my podcast, you have to stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Stay ready. I like it.
Yep.
Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Yep. So in terms of being a recruiter, take on those experiences, learning about customer service in the hospitality industry, learn how to do interviews and things of that nature. As far as networking, what is some advice you have for people, especially on leveraging the platform we're on LinkedIn?
Yes. So I tell people to come from behind the curtain. So DMs are fine, LinkedIn emails are fine, but you really want to start to showcase yourself on the front end of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is amazing for just engaging and the content that they provide. So the first thing I would tell people to do is to start not only connecting with but you also want to comment under people's posts. If someone just, is announced at a job that they're a recruiter, go ahead and congratulate them, follow the place that they just, announced where they got the job, and start following the recruiters that work there. Now you have a whole nother group of connections. And so I think being strategic about how you network on LinkedIn is helpful, and also setting yourself up as a subject matter expert as well. I tell people all the time, post one article a week on LinkedIn. You don't have to do it. Go to the right side of LinkedIn where they have, like the top articles that people are talking about.
Yeah, the trending stuff.
Yep. Find something that you're interested about, repost it, and just engage with people. Hey guys, what do you think about this? Really interesting. Do you want to go back to the office since that's a hot topic? But now you're bringing people to your page, and that's what you want. And my last tip, I would say that headline under our names on LinkedIn. Right now, you'll find mine. It says your corporate cousin.
Which I love.
Use that to advertise yourself, looking for open to recruiting opportunities, love matching people with their ideal jobs. Like really have fun with that part so that people know who you are, because as you're now commenting on other people's pages, that's your tagline. That's going to pop up. And you don't know who is seeing your page. I have a post that was seen 1 million times. And so every person that commented under that post, who knows who saw, their post or their hashtag looking for work, So keep that in mind. I would tell you to engage heavily on the front end of LinkedIn.
Yeah, we've got Aditya Tawari. Forgive me if I butcher your name. I would like to learn it if I get the opportunity. But he says networking and LinkedIn is vital. Be patient. Google's a great place to work and everything adds up.
Yeah.
So, somebody asked us, do you have any tips about was it Aditya again? He says, the about section. Do you have any tips about how to use that part of LinkedIn?
I do. So I tell people have fun with that section. Now, I've seen you may get a different response, but some people are a little, Jennifer Jones is a 15-year has recruited at You can do that, but I would also inject some fun in there. So talk about your sassy dog, or maybe that you're the bowling champ of 1985. I mean, anything that's kind of fun, because see, those are the talking points that your recruiters or hiring managers, because they look on LinkedIn too, connect with, right? You still are a human being. And that's what I try to remind people. Don't get so caught. I know, again, I don't want to water down this job process, but you're still a human, right? You're not your job title. And so tell us, do you like to cook? We want to know your hobbies. We want to know what fun things you do. If you taught yourself how to code, or if you like to I met a candidate once who rebuilds pinball machines. Like, that's cool. And so put that kind of stuff up there so that we can kind of get to know you a little bit. And this makes it less awkward when the recruiter reaches out, because now they kind of, they got
a pulse.
Yeah, right. We know.
So what's some of the most interesting stuff you've seen in profiles that's grabbed you? I'm just curious, like,
one time someone had now this was a SWE candidate, a software engineer candidate. He had a secret message in the LinkedIn message, but you had to read the message. Looked regular, but every fifth letter was another message in there. And so when you reached out to him, you had to tell him what that message was, and that's the only way he would respond to your message.
That's crazy.
It was, but that's the kind of he had tons of experience as a software engineer. So we're talking about someone who was getting reached out to by every single company multiple times a month. And so that's how he was doing it. And it was just
was like, if you're not going to take the time to really understand and get to know me, I'm not answering your question, because I'm getting hit up constantly and it's not a good use of my time.
Mm-hmm. And I would even say that, be direct. If you're looking, not looking to relocate right now, only want to stay in the New York area, I would put that information in there too. And that way you'll see less, I don't want to say pointless messages, but
you'll find things that will align better.
Yep.
So when you put out what you're asking for, then people know, okay, this is a door I should knock on.
Yep. And that's just the law of attraction as well. So you can use that section as an affirmation too.
Okay. See, now we're cooking with gas. What did you wish you knew before you embarked on this career journey? She's like, do we have time for this? Was that side?
Oh man. That imposter syndrome. I didn't know anything about it until I got to Google the first time. And I had a major breakdown. I think it was a month in, and my manager literally had to take me into a room. I was just crying so hard because I was like, I've never been in an environment like this before, where I'm not the smartest person in the room. And I felt all over the place, and I wasn't a number one achiever anymore. What was the problem, And so imposter syndrome is not real. And I think I would have loved to know that before I started my career. And have confidence in yourself. You have got to fake it until you make it. Nobody knows you don't know what you're talking about. And so until you figure it out, you can fake it, and then you'll start to build the confidence, but nobody has to know that you are in school at night and hustling during the day. If you don't want to tell, you don't have to. Everybody's story is different, but you've got to have confidence in yourself and know that whatever path you're setting yourself out on, if you believe in it, it will happen. And whatever is meant for you is going to happen. And I think that there's such freedom in knowing that you don't have to worry about anything, because everything that is aligned to your life is coming to you, you know? And so you can just rest in knowing that what comes your way was meant for you.
Yeah, look, you're really connecting with the audience. Someone said, yes, imposter syndrome. I know all about that. She gave us a smiley face.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, I think that it's important to, like you said, have that unshakable belief in your own success. I think that's really what you're getting at. You go, look, whatever happens, I'm going to be successful as long as I don't give up.
That's it.
That's great advice. So that's what you wish you knew. I mean, I also found it really impressive. You said, you know, your manager kind of pulled you aside. You were falling apart at work. Like, I don't feel like there's many places on the planet where you have that level of support with a manager, especially not as a contract employee. And I say this is somebody who's had a few contract jobs.
Yeah, I know.
They don't care. They're like, you'll be gone in 6 months. Like,
I know.
Next.
But I think, and not even just Google, but I think a lot of companies now, with mental health being a top topic and people realizing that your most dangerous employees are the ones that are walking around with smiles on their faces and they're not happy. Those are the ones you need to take care of. And, you know, I think
not smiling is the ones you need to take care of.
The ones that are hiding it very well, I think, are the ones that you need to be afraid of. And not in like a scary way. I just mean, you know, I probably thought about what I said, not in like a weird way, but like, that's a hard thing for someone who can hide their depression, but still go to work and function, like that functional depression. Because I know all about that as well. It's not easy.
It ain't. And I say that as somebody who is like living it, like went home every day for 6 weeks crying after work, but I went to work and I smiled.
And that's what I mean. And if we aren't creating environments in these workspaces where you feel safe to have a vulnerable moment, because it's normal. It's a human reaction. Work is hard, especially now, right?
Yeah.
And you should not be judged on a moment for 2 years worth of work. And I think
exactly.
Or, you know, I said 2 years, so that's how long I was there at the time. But, you know, it's so important to create safe environments at work. And that's why, again, back to my podcast, I just try to create a safe space where people can feel vulnerable. It's okay to have a moment. We all have them. And I don't care, you know, I'm sure every CEO out here, billionaire or not, has had a moment behind a closed door.
That's what makes us human. That is so true. Speaking of that, someone asked about stress management. Then I want to circle back to another question about restarting careers. But can we talk first a little bit about stress management? What are some of the things you do?
You know, let's see, there's a couple of things. This is a whole nother topic, but
so look, which episode on the podcast is this one?
This is my mental health one. So I do talk about taking control of my mental health, and I am someone who has prescribed to medication, and so that has helped me tremendously. Prior to the gym, obviously helps. The sauna, I love water aerobics and things like that. Really, my friends and family, I like being around people who make me feel like I'm close to the sun, and I saw that on Pinterest. I love that. People who just give me this feeling of feeling alive are the ones that I stay close to. I think boundaries help with your stress management too. Owning your space and understanding who deserves to be in it, and understanding that you don't owe anybody any kind of explanation for anything. I think that helps with stress management too, you know?
Louder for the folks in the back. You don't owe anybody.
You don't. I'm a huge journaler too. I believe in journaling. I'm trying to meditate. That thing is hard, but I'm trying. So I'm working on meditation. I'm a big prayer as well. So all of those things help. And I have a dog, so I'm a big dog lover, and they bring stress down as well. So,
what kind of dog do you have?
A very, very sassy Bichon.
Oh, okay, yes.
Afros.
Sassy puppy. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but reading, a good candle. You know, I think stress management is what is good for you, and I think that that's what's important too. Because I think we've come to a place where we think stress management is bubble baths and candles, and it's not.
Go off. It is not just about bubble baths. Sometimes stress management is turning that darn phone off.
It is.
Turn the phone off. Turn off the TV.
Yep. I'm on Do Not Disturb from 8:30 p.m. until 7 a.m. the next morning.
So you feel me? I've got that set during the week too, because sometimes it's too much. I'm like, I love y'all, but I need me right now. Yeah. I need my matcha. Yep. I need my pistachios. Yep. And something mindless to watch or read. Like that. That's how I want to end my days if I can have it my way.
Yep. I love it.
So on a little bit more of a serious note, someone asked about what opportunities for women. What about opportunities for women returning to work? Like one woman, she's currently upskilling her skills in IT. You know, what chances are there for women in the future? You know, kind of just looking for some guidance as far as like next steps. Do you have any suggestions here?
Yeah. So if I'm understanding the question right, she's going back to school, just upskilling, getting her skills in IT, and just wants to know what the future of work looks like for not only her, but women in general.
I think that's kind of what she goes to, kind of how do you and then someone else asked, you know, throw some insights up how restarting the career, women back to work, you know, after gaps. I think that's maybe more the angle here.
Got it.
Kind of figuring out, okay, I've been out of work taking care of the kids for a while, or you know, family members, or even yourself. Let's be honest. A lot of times I think we get focused on like women take off work so they can have babies. Like everybody take off work for a lot of different things. So
so I have two answers to that. The first is I would not put so much weight on what you think recruiters are looking at, especially now. So it's already factored in that if there's a gap in the resume, if you still have the skill sets that we're looking for within the time frame that's required for the job, and this is not just at Google, this is anywhere, they're still going to call you. It's just going to be a question, right? They might say, hey, so what was going on in the 4 years or 2-year break? And you don't have to go into detail either. You can say I was out for a personal reason. I went on a sabbatical. So I also want to throw that out there. You do not have to get super personal. We don't want to know all your business, but I'll throw me out there. So I took a break after I left one company. I was out of work for about 5 months by choice. And so it came up when I started interviewing again, what was going on. And I literally told the truth. I didn't feel like working. I was tired and I needed a break. And that was it. Like, wow. It is what it is. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of times companies, they know, I mean, times are completely different as far as why people need breaks. We get it. You could even say I'm reevaluating my career at this time, because that even shows being purposeful about what you want to do next. And that means a lot. For the person who was asking about school and the future of women, I think there's so many. I think every company right now is focused on making sure that all of their staff and their environments are diversified and that we're full of culture. It's definitely top of mind for every single company out there right now.
It is.
So I don't think that is really the issue. I think what I would focus on is continuing doing what you're doing, but also making sure these networking and programs and those challenges or like those nonprofits that are specifically for women, like I would start getting really, really close to, I can't think of like the Grace Hoppers event, or just like anything that is geared toward getting women in particular closer to tech. Though that's where you need to be, because then at that point, everything else will kind of fall into place. Like you're already doing the work, going back to school, getting the skill sets that you want for the job that you want. I think your main focus at this point would be getting connected with the groups that are going to get you to where you need to be so that you can get in front of the people who are going to get you to where you want to be. Because I think the environment is already being created for us to dominate, like girl power here.
So who run the world?
We're already taking over in a lot of different areas. So I just see the future of women in tech in general is just phenomenal. I feel confident about it. And I feel like we're all breaking these barriers down. Like we don't have to wait anymore to be invited to a table. We're literally creating our own. And I think that's why I keep stressing networking and getting out there and aligning yourself with the companies and the groups and the nonprofits that are aligned with where you want to be, because that's how you're going to start branching off and getting to where you want to go.
Okay, yeah. Look, someone said, "Thank you, Jennifer. This raises my spirits."
Aww.
Look at you out here inspiring people on Saturdays on your off day.
My fuzzy slippers on.
Look, I was like, wait, I put on pants, y'all.
And I have a necklace on for y'all.
That's today. Cute. I like it. I like it a lot. So I've taken more of your time, I think, than we scheduled. I want to be fair to you.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. I just looked up and I was like, wait, I'm sorry. I hope you didn't have like 5 other things to do, but thank you. No. So we've talked about what you wanted to be when you grew up. We've talked about how to maximize LinkedIn profiles from your header section down to your about section, how to take that sidebar of trending articles and add that to the mix once a week so that you can build your reach by engaging people in conversations. We have talked about the future of women in tech and how to manage those gaps, about telling people, hey, look, I was taking a sabbatical. They don't want all your business. Like, you've given so many gems, like, in this short time. I don't even know where to begin to thank you, but I appreciate your presence. Is there anything else that we have not talked about that you would like to share?
You know, I think I would just tell everyone, celebrating someone else is not going to keep you from getting what to do to you. And I know it can be hard watching people announce that they got a new job, especially if it's someplace where you want to be and you're still waiting for a callback. So I know how that feels too, but I would tell you to stay encouraged. That's first. Sometimes this is all math as well. So the more applications that you send out, the better chances you have of getting a call back. And so sometimes you do have to dedicate an hour every day to just applying to things that you are a fit for, and getting out there. But I think the main thing I would tell people is to be encouraged, that this thing takes time, but it will pay off in the end. It always does. And stay close to people who are going to help you get to where you need to be, and just to be patient. And I feel like there's so much I could say, but I think I'll leave it there.
Oh, that is perfectly fine. I think Aditya said we need more podcasts like this. Thank you, Jennifer. People are really enjoying the show. So, guys, if you can't get enough of Jennifer, someone said absolutely agree. We need more encouragement of others. This is Shalak Andre Williams. Sorry so much if I butcher your name. I'm so sorry. I'm trying it on the fly and being brave today. Also, I understand people get my name really rough all the time too. So please ask for grace. But you've given some amazing advice. You've said, hey, encourage people, guys. If you can't get enough of Jennifer, I need you to check out the Jennuine Life podcast. It's on Spotify. It is on Anchor. Where else can we find it, Jennifer? So Anchor, Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple, and I forgot Google as well. And I think the other thing I need to make sure I throw out is it's the Jennuine Life. That's JEN. Yeah, so it's a play on my name. So it's JENNUINE Life, all one word. There you go. So now you know where to find her. If people want to reach out or connect with you, how can they connect with you, corporate cousin? So, LinkedIn is not the best place right now. My is out of control. So I would honestly tell you, this sounds childish, but Instagram is probably the best place right now. So my Instagram is the same thing, Jennuine Life, JENNUINELIFE. LinkedIn is great too. I just post things on there, but as far as messaging, I probably won't see it for a month. And you can also email me, Jennifer@jennuinelife.com as well. Jennifer@jennuinelife.com. All right. So I don't have a low-key producer to be typing all this stuff in for me while we're doing this. So as soon as we hop off, guys, I will type in the podcast, the email. It'll all be there in the comments for you guys. part of the reason I started this career conversations sort of series. I broadcast on Saturdays at noon so that we can help you all connect with people and understand what career journeys really look like. Because I feel like when I started my career years ago, I was really in a place of trying to figure out, well, am I even doing this right? Yeah. and as Jennifer said, you know, the imposter syndrome, all these different experiences and all the self-doubt you experience. And so for me, this is an opportunity to level the playing field and shine some light on some spectacular people who have probably been where you are and can show you that it all works out, not just tell you.
Yeah.
And talk about the process through and through. Everybody for your comments today. You know, I really appreciate the engagement. Thank you all so much. Jennifer, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I'm going to post this up on YouTube and I'll share it a few other places so you guys, if you want to circle back and we rewatch it, take some notes, like Jennifer said. Some people were watching her podcast early on and scribbling notes. It's some good tips that I've applied myself, y'all. So don't sleep the podcast. All right. Thank you so much. We're going to wrap it up. So hold for me a moment, Jennifer.